Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope y'all doing well and enjoying your day so far, with many big name professional players retiring over the last several months. So big question has been raised between Scump and Methodz. What exactly is the optimal playing age for a professional player in Call of Duty? When are some of the big name players going to fall off? How long could they potentially compete for? Scump and Methodz certainly not agreeing on the answer. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you were new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, this from Hamza Frosty. Since deleted, I'm pretty sure, interestingly, team of 3 with Zaptius and Fire going into the next season on the Challenger side. Now, as I say, I'm pretty sure this got deleted. Not exactly sure why. Thought this could be a pretty solid team of 3. Maybe something fell through. Maybe something has changed. I suppose I'll keep you guys updated over the coming days. Wanted to mention this as well because yesterday I didn't get to discuss, because the Crimsix thing happened, about what the breaking point top 20 players were for the Challenger side. Going very soon, I believe maybe today, tomorrow, into the top 20 pro players. But yeah, so 10 through 6 was Panda, Hixie, Gravity, Spart, and Vortex. So this is kind of a mix between all the different regions, right? That's the thing. There was a lot of talk right here about the likes of Spart. Like, Spart wasn't necessarily too happy with getting 7th, given that he did win in the Challengers World Championships, or at least in World Challengers Championships in the North American side. Panda as well, some big questions that he should be as low as 10th. Joey Nubsy wasn't very happy. Panda 10th with the clown emoji. I want names, he says. And there's some interesting replies right here. You have the list and the spreadsheet. Go peep it. I can't do that. Pretty sure I saw actual Reddit users on there. easyMac was kind of running the spreadsheet and stuff for these operations. It was literally all casters, coaches, amateur and pro, and like 2 people from media who voted in this. I wasn't included, so don't blame me for the list maybe not being the best as it could be, but it was a solid, it was a solid list, says Austin, for some of the people that could have voted, and somehow we ended up with Panda at 10th. Strips literally all validity from this list, but as Austin says, to be fair, that's top 5 in North America. Not too bad, given that a lot of the players above him are going from the other regions, for example, the European regions, where it's obviously tough to compare between the two, but in terms of results, sometimes it can be better in the European side, because generally players tend to stick on teams for a little bit longer in the European region and other regions as well, because of course Pred is going to be mentioned. We'll have a look at here in just a second. These were the top 5: Pentagram at 5, Pred at 4, Sib at 3, Harry at 2, and Nasty at 1. So yeah, this is the top 5 at least Challengers players theoretically. Nasty, we believe, is going to be joining London. Harry, we're not really sure what's going on with him. We thought that maybe London could give him a go, or instead of Gizmo or something, and we also potentially thought that Paris could also give him a shot, right? We'll have to see how that one develops. Sib, of course, is going to go to Seattle. Pred is also going to go to Seattle. So Seattle clearly doing a pretty good job here, from at least in terms of the way this list has been formed this time around. But yeah, anyway, these are the top 5. Definitely some complaints about this, understandably so. We've heard your complaints. Next season, we'll put all 500 plus challengers inside our top 5. Then everyone will be happy and satisfied. But yes, as I say, the top 20 pro players for the season is going to start here in just a couple of days' time. Speaking of that, of course, Scump says the following back in 2015. I'm pretty sure at this point, this is 6 years ago. He must have been 20, I guess, at the time. My age gets higher, but Call of Duty never leaves. This is one of the big question marks that has been raised as of late. We've had many top tier pro players retire over the last several months, and Scump is kind of wondering, when could his time potentially be up? How long is it going to be until Scump steps away? We've seen discussions the last year or so, the fact that Scump maybe has 3-4 years left in him potentially. And of course, you look at a guy like Clayster. He's if the season goes as planned and he continues on New York for the entirety of the year, he's going to turn 30 this year, which is going to be the first pro player to still be doing it and competing at a very high level. Does it work if you're an SMG player? That, of course, is another question mark. That may be some of the differential in the discussion here between Scump and Methodz. We'll look at in a couple of seconds. The Scump reckons your prime is when you're a bit younger, but Methodz thinks you should be a little bit older, maybe a bit more experienced, and maybe that's what counts really as an AR player. But as an SMG player, generally, Scump, as he goes on to describe, is the oldest in the entire league. So maybe that does certainly make sense from that regard. But of course, we saw some retirements come through from Formal back at the end of August now. Pretty crazy to think how this one transpired. Formal only 26 when he decided to retire and step away. Now, of course, look, Methodz is kind of making the argument that yes, some of these players might not have been in their prime anymore, but that's not necessarily because they lost their ability, but it's more that they lost their motivation. That was kind of evident with Formal, right, that he wasn't quite as motivated to compete as he has been in the past. When I guess he was searching for that World Championship win, for example. Also from aBeZy, right, retiring from professional Call of Duty, he says, just a few weeks ago. And you could look at this potentially okay, if you're 18, 20, 19, 20, whatever, there's nothing really else in your life, apart from a few mates or whatever, than Call of Duty, I suppose. Whereas if you're aBeZy, you've got a wife, you've got a kids, right? There's other things you've got to focus on, and it's not so easy to put all your time into things, and that's maybe why your performance tends to suffer over time, even though aBeZy and Formal still very solid players, but at the point in their careers where they couldn't get an opportunity, or they just decided to step away because the motivation wasn't quite there anymore. more, you could say, in Formal's case. Aqua, of course, also retired recently as well, but that was more of a case of like maybe just not getting a spot and having a difficult year on Paris rather than like falling off as an individual player, because I thought he was still a pretty solid one. But yeah, I'll share this clip for you guys with Scump and Methodz here in just a second. Thought this was kind of funny though, right? Because as Simp says back in 2018 here, watching to see who's going to be the weakest link on these pro teams before I do turn 18, because Simp of course waiting for some of these older guys to maybe get out of the way so Simp could come through and be an absolute dominant force from Black Ops 4 onwards. And of course, Simp, as he says, turning 18 at the time, that maybe is, during his prime era. And how long is that prime era going to last?
So there's a question going around. What do you think is the prime gaming age? Like the prime, not looking at football prime or baseball prime where it's like mid to late 30s. What's the prime for video games? I think it's like 18 to like 22. I think it's like in there, 18 to 22. That's like your prime. Like 16, you're a little young, you're still learning.
Get the f on the game right now.
Suck my balls. I'll be there when I want. Suck on them.
All right.
Zin, okay, wait. Zin, I just asked this question in my chat. I said, what is a gamer's prime age to like compete, would you say?
I don't think people will believe me if I say it.
I said 18 to 22 is like your prime.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, I think it's older than that. I think it's older than that.
What do you think it is?
I would say like, dude, I don't know. I think it's like 20 to 26.
20 to 26?
I don't know.
I mean, all right, let's go. I mean, I'm the oldest sub in the league and I'm 26. So that's got to say something.
Dude, I think everybody guesses the age thing. I don't think the age really matters. I think it just matters how much time you're putting in. The thing is, all the 18-year-olds are playing more.
You think?
I mean, they're just hungrier because it's their first time here.
Yeah.
So I think there's really two different questions here. One of them is the one that Scump and Methodz are raising. Like, what is your prime age? When are you the best Call of Duty player you are going to be? And maybe Scump is right that for an SMG player, that could be 18 to 22, right? That you need that, like, incredibly fast, snappy reactions. Then again, I'm not really sure how much your reactions really deteriorate after the age of 22. Probably not significantly at all, at least if anything like regular sports or anything to go by. Of course, experience and stuff like that does definitely pay dividends as well, but maybe that's more relevant for AR players. I'm not really sure. It's an interesting conversation. The other part of it is like, what is the age cap, right? Yeah, yes, Scump might be right that like you're at your best when you're like 22, even though Methodz says it could be up to 26 if the motivation is still there, and maybe even older than that, right? Clayster, as I said, is bordering on 30, and his last year in Cold War was considered by many to be his second best year ever, at least in terms of his peak performance as an individual player. That may be his second best game ever after Advanced Warfare way back in 2014, 2015. Especially towards the start of this title, people were saying, wow, Clayster is a dominant force. He was Mr. 99 in like stage 1, stage 2 or something, and had a decent result in stage 3 as well, coming second at the major before everything kind of went crazy with that team when Asim's visa went through and, well, it didn't go through, and the things kicked off with that squad. But Clayster was really performing fantastically well at the start of this year, and other players who have got older, like Scump, for example, other people would say as well, this, I think Octane said, this was Scump's best game since like Black Ops 3, which is very impressive for these guys who are, obviously getting into the latter part of their career, still performing at a very high level. Maybe they're not quite at their prime anymore, but they're still in a position where they can very much be a competent player and also bring much more to the team than just their individual performance, right? As well can happen when you get older as well. So an interesting talk, no doubt. I think I generally lean more to Methodz side of the argument here. The fact that, like, yes, when you get older, it's not necessarily you fall out of your prime. It's more that the motivation and the playing hours kind of goes away to some degree. If Scump can say, like, if he can stay playing the hours that he was back in the day, I still think Scump can be pretty much the player he was back then. The difference might be that the competition nowadays is greater. So Scump doesn't look like the crazy SMG that he was way above the field a few years ago, because nowadays there's so many other great SMGs and so many other better players than there were a few years ago. You could argue that is certainly one way to look at it, but as Clay says, 29 today back in May this year, but gameplay 18, but and Crimsix also, I'm pretty sure this clip, age 27, but gameplay 18. This is a pretty monster clip actually, that Crimsix jumping off the top rope, you guys will see here in just a second, but Crimsix actually now 28, so definitely a lot of these players as we looked at right with New York yesterday, we've got Crimsix 28, we've got Clayster 29, and then we've got like Hydra and Neptune being like 18, 19, 20 or whatever. So definitely a big disparity on that team, and maybe like those guys, the younger guys, are in their prime as the SMG players, and then Crim and Clayster are kind of maybe past their prime, right, you could say, but still very valuable and still very solid as well. We certainly saw that in the last couple of years. To actually look at the ages of some of these guys when they retired, so Former was 26 when he retired just a couple of months ago that we looked at. aBeZy, I believe, was 26 as well, or 27, actually, we'll look at it in a second. Scump is also 26, right, so as he says, like, one of the older SMGs in the league, no doubt, but there's still plenty of life left in the tank, I would at least say. This, of course, from aBeZy as well, 27 when he decided to retire, and I mean, also, well, this one from Clayster, 29. As I say, this season, if everything goes to plan with New York and things continue on as the current roster is meant to be, Clayster, Hydra, Crimsix, and Neptune, that through the entirety of the season, he will turn 30 at some point this season, being the first pro player to do so. There's not even that many retired Call of Duty players that are like older than 30, to be honest. I guess some of the ones way back in the day. That just shows the longevity of Clayster. And yes, he might be past his prime, you could say, but I mean, still, I don't know. The age cap is certainly a very different question mark. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. These also I'd throw out from the Call of Duty League just to finish things off. At the player who is taking off CDL 2021, the talent is there, the recognition is not quite there. There's I guess there's a couple that come to mind here. Firstly, I wanted to shout out Afro over at London. I think that, to be fair, he did get some recognition towards the end of the year, but the talent on that kid is absolutely ridiculous. And just because London didn't have the results doesn't mean that pretty much everyone who played against Afro towards the end of the title was like, damn, this guy is a very hard kill on the map indeed. The other one I would say probably is Gunless, just because I think like throughout Gunless's career, at least in the last couple of years, he's had a difficult couple of years, but people don't really maybe give so much credit to the fact that Gunless, in terms of raw talent, is one of the best players I think we've ever seen. And from Infinite Warfare into World War II into Black Ops 4, he was at one point or another considered the best player in the game. So the last couple of years, probably that recognition has fallen off, especially without the results to back it up, but maybe that'll come back this year on, of course, the Los Angeles Guerrillas that seem to be stronger than they have been ever before. But very much intrigued to your thoughts down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really helps out that you are going to know you enjoyed this content. Other people just like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always, take care, and I will see you next time.